Hello, welcome to Once Upon a Time, our favorite library show where we read books to you and get a little bit of chuckles in sometimes. I'm Catherine Poulter, I'm the children's librarian, and
I am Becca Hyde, and I'm an early childhood librarian at Marshall Public Library.
yes, and so we have a lot of books to share with you. One really exciting thing is that next month in March, we will be having a visit from a famous author. His name is S.D. Nelson, and he's a member of the Standing Rock Sioux Lakota tribe in the Dakotas, and he's written quite a few books. I brought 3 of them with me. Some of them are really long, some of them are short, but I'm going to read some of those today so that you have a little bit of an idea about his work. And when he comes to Pocatello, he'll be doing some public performances. For example, on Monday, March 6th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he'll come to the library and you can sit down and listen to him talk. And he's also an artist. I'm not sure if he's going to tell stories and do art. He might. That would be wonderful.
I hope.
Also on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, he's going to be up at the University Education Building in the auditorium there. And then on Wednesday the 8th, he's going to go over to the Portneuf Library also at 4 o'clock. So there's a lot of opportunities to meet him and see his work. And so I'm going to start out by reading one of my favorites. It's called The Star People. It's a Lakota story. A lot of these stories he learned from his mother when he was growing up. So here we have The Star People, a Lakota story, written and illustrated by S.D. Nelson. Young Wolf and I had wandered far across the prairie. Being his older sister, I wanted to show him the wonders of our world. Look up, brother. Do you see how Father Sun travels high in the sky during the day? And see beneath our feet. Mother Earth is alive with growing things. My little brother looked for a long moment, then said, Sister girl, I cannot see our village any more. Let's stay for just a while longer, young wolf, I said. Then we will go back. We sat in the dry, sweet-smelling grass, watching the clouds drift overhead. Young Wolf pointed and said, Sister girl, that cloud looks like a buffalo's head. We both laughed with amazement. There's an eagle, I cried. And horses, said Young Wolf. The cloud spirits are playing above us, I told my brother. Sometimes they take the shape of animals or people. The clouds are alive, and we call them the Cloud People. As the Cloud People changed their shapes, the face of a woman emerged. Look, my brother gasped. Grandmother! Grandmother Elktooth! Elktooth woman had died during that spring, and we missed her very much. As I looked, I realized the clouds had turned dark in the distance. Lightning struck the dry earth. The day is coming to an end, I told Young Wolf. Mother and Father will be expecting us. Overhead, birds cried. Rabbits, deer, and other animals bounded past, their eyes wide with fear. Something was terribly wrong. I smell smoke, said Young Wolf. A prairie fire. We joined the fleeing creatures and ran for our lives. Father, Mother, we cried. But our voices could not be heard above the roaring fire, and we had wandered so far from our village. The flames were catching up to us. The smoke made it impossible to see. I stumbled down a hill, and Young Wolf fell beside me. Rolling down the hill, I despaired. We would never see our home again, or our mother and father. In the next moment, we were in water. Water! In the blinding smoke, we had fallen into a stream. Come on, I cried to Young Wolf, as I pulled him deeper. We clutched each other and hunched down. Only our heads poked up above the water. The fire leapt from the bank to bank. Angry flames flew just over our heads. Sparks and ash fell on us, but we were not harmed. Then the fire was past us, flashing to nothing in the distance. "Look, brother," I said to young Wolf, who was softly crying. "We are safe. Be glad. The fire did not catch us." I coaxed him out of the water and up the bank. A strange, blackened land stretched out before us. I knew that I had made a mistake by wandering so far from home. Now I had no idea how to find our village, and the dark of night was near. I tried not to cry, but tears came to my eyes as I comforted my brother. "Sister girl," young Wolf said, "Sister girl, the stars are dancing." I looked up. High above us, the stars were becoming shapes, as the clouds had done that afternoon. First there was a coyote, then a bear, a hawk, and many other creatures, both animal and human. Chanting, the star people encircled us. "They are the spirits of the old ones, who once walked on this earth," I told my brother. Young Wolf was first to see Elk-Tooth Woman dancing among them. "It's my grandma," he cried. "You are safe now, my little young Wolf," she whispered, holding out her arms. "I am here, my sister girl." I was delighted to see our grandmother. Young Wolf was happy, but confused. He said, "Grandma, I thought I would never see you again." Smiling, she drew us close to her, tenderly rocking back and forth. Beneath a heaven full of stars, we fell into a deep sleep. Young Wolf and I dreamed of green prairies and our village. In our dream, we could see our mother and father. Both were searching frantically for us. They feared the fire had taken our lives. We called to them, "We are here, we are safe." But they could not hear us. In our dream, raindrops pattered upon the burned ground. Wildflowers grew and crickets chirped. Moths fluttered about in the cool moonlight. Creatures crawled from the safety of their burrows. Badgers, lizard, turtle, rabbit. The wild ones gathered in a circle. Dancing, they chanted a joyous song. "Thank you, raindrops, the fire is gone. Thank you, Sister Moon, the fire is gone. Hey, ya, hey, star people above, we are alive. Hey, ya, hey." In our dream, Grandmother and Young Wolf lifted their feet to the beat of the drum. I joined in their dance. Together, we all gave thanks. In the morning, when we awoke, I felt an emptiness in my heart. I missed our parents. Young Wolf felt the emptiness of his stomach. "I am hungry," he said. Elk-Tooth Woman laughed. She took us to a place where berry bushes had escaped the fire. We ate our fill. Then Grandmother said she would take us home. We traveled a long time across the barren land. In places there were flowers and green grass untouched by the fire. That was a sign of hope. Finally, we came to a hilltop. Looking down, Young Wolf howled, "There's our village!" I turned to Grandmother. "Our mother and father will be so happy to see you again." She shook her head. "I can go no farther. I must return to my home in the sky." Young Wolf clutched Elk-Tooth Woman and would not let her go. Tears streamed down his round cheeks. I pleaded with her to stay. Drawing away from us, Grandmother smiled and said, "Don't worry, my sister girl, my young wolf. I will always be with you. The star people are always with you. Look up, and you will see me among the stars." So Young Wolf and I returned home safely. Our parents wept with joy to see their children, and then they were very angry with us for wandering so far from home. But ever after, when my little brother and I walked beneath the star-filled heavens, we felt comfort, for we knew our grandmother and all of the star people were watching over us. And that is the end.
That is
What
really
a beautiful
book.
story, yes.
Just as lovely as can be. And illustrations are
Oh, beautiful.
words.
I love those.
Can't wait for his visit.
Yes.
Here's another lovely book that I would like to read this morning. It is titled Arctic White, It's by Dana Smith and illustrations are by Lee White. And there is so much white when you live in the Arctic North. When you live in the Arctic in winter, everything is a shade of white. The blue-white of the tundra, the yellow-white of the polar bear, the silver-white of the Arctic fox. Sometimes, when you wish on a star for more color, you get only gray, and gray is still a shade of white. Here, winter days are dark as night. As time passes, you wonder, where did all the color go? Did the wind blow it away? Every day you hope for more color. Grandfather says hope is golden. You can only see it when you look into a snowy owl's eyes. Every day you wait for more color. You wait and wait in the white. Then one night you hear a hum in the air. Your grandfather smiles. You think he might be keeping a secret. You bundle up and follow him outside. When you live in the Arctic, the cold always finds a way to sneak inside your warmest parka. Your grandfather's lantern glows bright. Together you go on a journey, gathering friends along the way, friends who hope for color too. You trudge across the tundra, past the icy sea and sleeping seals. Even footprints are white in the Arctic. You climb a snowy mountain and find a good spot, a place your grandfather says is close to the secret. There you sit and wait. Tonight you welcome the darkness, because you need dark to see the northern lights, purple swirling, green glowing, blue swooping, red pushing, pulsing like your heartbeat. You watch colors dance across the sky and you forget all about the cold. The colors of light brighten the night, bright enough to see the lines on your grandfather's face and the twinkle in his eye. Too soon the colors begin to fade. You keep watching until the sky is as dark as before. You make your way down the snowy mountain, past the icy sea and sleeping seals. Back home, you remember the colors. Purple swirling, green glowing, blue swooping, red pulsing. When you live in the Arctic in winter, everything is a shade of white, but inside there is hope. The end.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think it's beautiful too.
Hope is always there, isn't it?
It is.
I like that.
Even in the dark.
Yes. Well, the next book I have for you is called Crazy Horse's Vision. Crazy Horse is one of the most famous and well-known Native Americans, and yet a lot of people don't realize that he had a story about his own life. His boyhood name, for example, was Curly because he had curly hair. So this book is written by Joseph Bruchac. He was one of our visiting authors about 5 years ago. And this book is illustrated by our current visiting author, S.D. Nelson. Here we go. Crazy Horse's Vision. Crazy Horse, they say, was always different. Many children cry when they are born, but not Crazy Horse. He studied the world with serious eyes. "Look at our son," his mother said. "How brave he is." "See how curly his hair is," said his father. "Tashunka Witko, we will call him Curly," said his mother. Seasons passed. The boy named Curly grew strong and wiry, but would never be tall. Though small, Curly was a leader. When others spoke, he was quiet. When others hesitated, he acted. "Follow me," he would say, and the other boys would follow. A Lakota boy could go wherever he wanted, and Curly wanted to go everywhere. He led his friends to swim in the river and ride far over the plains. They followed him up the highest cliffs where eagles nested. "Be brave," he told them. "If we are brave, we can help our people." When Curly was 11 years old, his father brought a wild horse into the camp. "Whoever is first to ride this horse can have it," announced Kashunka-Witko. Then he and his best friend, High Backbone, went into the teepee to eat. When they heard shouts, they rushed outside to look. Curly was on the back of the wild horse. It could not throw him. When it finally stood still, Curly slid off, his arms around its neck. "Your son has a new horse," said High Backbone. "So it seems," said Kashunka-Witko. 2 summers later, Curly joined the men on a buffalo hunt for the first time. Hunting buffalo was dangerous. If your horse stumbled and you fell, you could get trampled to death. To strike a running buffalo with an arrow was difficult. Even the best hunters often had to shoot several arrows to bring down a buffalo. As the hunters rode down the hill, the buffalo began to run. Their hooves sounded like thunder. Curly's swift horse carried him ahead of the others. Soon he was in the midst of the herd, next to a huge buffalo. Guiding his horse with his knees, Curly drew back the arrow and let it loose. It went straight and the buffalo fell. When the others caught up to him, Curly was standing by his first buffalo. "I give this buffalo to all those in our camp who have no one to hunt for them," he said. Although Curly's life as a boy was good, things were about to change. Watachi settlers began to pass through Lakota land. The army built forts. They said they would keep peace between the Lakotas and the whites. One day a white man's cow strayed into the Lakota camp. It trampled through a teepee and knocked over cooking pots. A warrior stepped forward and killed the cow with an arrow. The settler who owned the cow demanded that the army punish the Lakota chief Conquering Bear. He tried to avoid trouble. He offered a mule and 5 horses for the cow. The white soldiers ignored the offer and fired their rifles and wagon guns at the Lakotas. Conquering Bear was mortally wounded. Curly was there and witnessed the terrible thing that happened. He was deeply troubled. As he stood by the burial scaffolds, many thoughts went through his mind. What would happen now to his people? Who would defend them? Curly decided he needed a vision to guide him. Normally, a boy would need a holy man to help prepare him for his vision quest. He would fast and purify himself in a sweat lodge before setting out. But Curly felt he had no time. Curly rode away from the camp. He went along the bluffs above the river and came to an eagle-catching pit dug into the soft earth. Curly tied his rope between the legs of his pinto horse so it would not wander away. He climbed the hill, stripped off his clothes, and stepped down into the pit. He sat and prayed for a vision. The day passed and night came. Curly did not leave the pit. He prayed for strength to help his people. A second day and night passed. Without food or water, Curly continued to pray. "Wakantanka," he cried, "great mystery, even though I am small and pitiful, I want to help my people." Dawn of the 3rd day brought nothing to his eyes or ears. No spirit, no bird, no animal, not even an insect came to him. All he saw was the sky above him and the earth of the pit. At last, late on the 3rd day, Curly climbed out of the pit. He was barely able to stand. Would a vision ever come to him? Was he unworthy? He staggered downhill to where his pinto grazed near a cottonwood. Reaching the tree, he could stand no longer. And then the vision came. It was a rider on the back of Curly's own pony, yet horse and man floated in the air. As the man rode closer, Curly saw that he wore blue leggings, and his face was not painted. A single feather hung from his long brown hair. Behind one ear, a round stone was tied. A red-backed hawk flew above the man's head. Curly heard these words, which were not spoken. Keep nothing for yourself. While the air filled with the streaking hail and bullets, nothing touched the rider. Storm clouds rolled above, the thunder sounded, but the man rode on. The man's cheek was a lightning bolt. Spots like hail were marked onto his chest. Suddenly, many Lakota were all around the rider. Some seemed to be holding him up, while others seemed to be pulling him from his horse. Curly felt hands on his shoulders, shaking him. He opened his eyes. His father and High Backbone were bent over him, concern in their faces. Curly looked past them. His pony grazed peacefully, hobbled as it had been before his vision began. No rider was on its back, but a red-backed hawk was perched in the top of the bush near his horse. "Why are you here?" his father demanded. "I came to seek a vision," Curly said. Curly wanted to tell them what he had seen so they could help him understand it, but his father's face was filled with anger. "You were not prepared," his father said. "How could you do this without going into the sweat lodge? How can you expect a true vision without being guided by your elders?" Curly looked over at High Backbone. He too was angry. They would not listen to him, so he said nothing. He let them carry him back to the camp. He kept his vision in his heart, and he shared it with no one. 3 winters passed. Curly had become not a different person, but a better one. No young man was more generous or serious. He spoke even less than before, but when he did speak, his words were always wise and clear. Finally, Tashunka Witko saw the time had come to speak with his son about his vision quest. Tashunka Witko sat with Curly in the sweat lodge and listened quietly as Curly described the powerful vision given to him. "The man on that horse," Curly's father said, "is the one you will become. You will be first to defend your people, though some will try to hold you back. As long as you keep nothing for yourself, no arrow or bullet can harm you. Because of that vision, you must have a new name. So I give you my own. From now on, you will be Tashunka Witko." The young man, whose name had been Curly, listened to his father's words. His new name fit the vision of a horse dancing through a storm. From that day on, he would be known by that name. His name would stand for the bravest of all the Lakotas, one who always defended his people. In the days to come, all the world would know that his name was said in English. They would know Crazy Horse. And that is the end.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Now, in a family where everyone is excellent at something, sometimes even the dog wants to be excellent at something too. Here is a book written by Stacy McNulty and illustrated by Julia Sarcone Roach. Excellent Ed. All the Ellis children were excellent at something, except Ed. And all the Ellis children were allowed to eat at the table, and ride in the van, and sit on the couch and use the indoor bathroom, except Ed. Elaine was an excellent soccer player. Ed preferred to carry the ball in his mouth. The twins Emily and Elmer were excellent at math and could add faster than a calculator. Ed could only count to 4. Edith was an excellent ballerina and could twirl on her toes. Ed could twirl too, but it wasn't the same. Ernie baked excellent cupcakes. Ed agreed. Maybe if I was excellent like Elaine, Emily, Elmer, Edith, and Ernie, then I could eat at the table and ride in the van and sit on the couch and use the indoor bathroom, Ed thought. But what was Ed excellent at? And then he got it. Breaking stuff! I'm definitely excellent at breaking stuff, Ed thought. He thought that should earn him a place at the family table. But before he could jump onto a chair, Elaine zoomed into the kitchen and yelled, I broke the record for most soccer goals in a season. Elaine was better at breaking stuff than Ed. I must be excellent at something else, Ed thought. And then he got it. Losing stuff. Just last week, he lost himself when he wandered out of the backyard. I'm definitely excellent at losing stuff, Ed thought. Ed thought that earned him a ride in the van, but just as he was about to jump in, Elmer shouted, I lost a tooth. Me too, Emily said. Elmer and Emily were better at losing stuff than Ed. I must be excellent at something, Ed thought. Better than Elaine, Emily, Elmer, Edith, and Ernie. But what? Forgetting stuff! He always forgot to wipe his paws, and he forgot that he shouldn't water the rose bushes, and he always seemed to forget that he had just eaten. Ed, you just ate, Dad said. I'm definitely excellent at forgetting stuff, Ed thought. He was sure that earned him a nap on the couch, but then Edith made an announcement. I'm the new lead ballerina. When I auditioned, I just forgot to be nervous and danced my best ever. Yay! But Ed whimpered. He wasn't even the best forgetter. Maybe I'm not excellent enough to be part of this Ellis family. Just then, Ernie dropped half of his peanut butter sandwich. Ed gulped it up. Wow, Ed, you're excellent at cleaning the floor, Ernie said. Yes, I am an excellent floor cleaner. Maybe that's why I don't eat at the table. Then Emily and Elmer walked in the front door. Ed jumped up and covered them with kisses. Ed, you're excellent at welcoming us home, Emily and Elmer said. Yes, I am an excellent welcomer. Maybe that's why I don't go away in the van. Later, the family squished together on the couch, and there was no room for Ed, so he lay across Edith's and Elaine's feet. Ed is an excellent foot warmer, Elaine whispered to Edith. Yes, I am excellent at warming feet. Maybe that's why I don't sit on the couch. Ed wagged his tail. He was an excellent Ellis. After all. Now, if he could just figure out why he wasn't allowed to use the indoor bathroom. An excellent family needs an excellent dog.
Oh, very good. A dog will love you.
Fortune meant to come
Yes.
true.
I have one last book. Well, there's more books, but this is the last one I'll read about by S.D. Nelson. This is S.D. Nelson telling again and illustrating a Lakota story called Black Elk's Vision. Black Elk was a Lakota tribe member. He was actually a cousin of Crazy Horse. And he lived a very long time. And, well, I'll let the story speak for itself. Here we go. This first part is some words that he wrote. While I stood there, I saw more than I can tell and understand, more than I saw, for I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things. This story is called Black Elk's Vision. Stay close to the teepee, our mother warned. If you children wander away, the Washichos will snatch you. I had never seen a Wachicho. I feared them. They had white faces and started terrible battles against our people, so we stayed close to home and played like nervous young rabbits. We knew enemy eyes could be watching from the tall grass. I was 4 years old in 1867 when I first heard the spirit voices. They sounded like my mother calling me, but when I looked up, she was not there. Then a year later, I heard and saw the spirits. I had ridden my pony into the woods near our village. A kingbird chirruped from a tree branch, and the clouds turned dark above. The bird spoke. "The clouds above watch you. A voice calls you. Do you hear?" A great wind roared in the treetops. Lightning flashed all about. Then 2 cloud people appeared from the storm overhead. Thunder drummed in my ears, and the 2 spirits sang, "Behold, a sacred voice is calling you. All over the sky a sacred voice is calling." Rain poured down upon my pony and me. We stood our ground. The spirit of the west wind whirled around us. Then the chanting cloud people turned into geese. Together with the kingbird, the winged ones flew away into the storm. Although I was only a small boy, I had been shown something extraordinary. I told no one about my vision. I feared they would laugh and call me foolish. Still, I often wondered about what I had seen. Before the Washichus came into our country, the cloud people lived in the blue sky above. There were no wagon roads or iron horse rails dividing our land. My people, the Lakota, lived freely on the open prairies. We followed the great herds of buffalo. They were our brothers. They provided us with food, and we used their skins to make our clothing and teepees. Along with the women, we children would gather berries and dig for wild turnips from Mother Earth. As I grew older, we boys played at being hunters and warriors. We learned to shoot arrows while riding our horses at a gallop. We wrestled and played many rough-and-tumble games. There were many happy times with good belly laughs. In our village, certain men often performed silly antics. We called such men Heyokas. They were foolish clowns, and yes, they were holy, for laughter itself is a holy gift. Sometimes these men would paint their bodies and wear masks. They usually did things backwards. They would say, "Goodbye," when they meant hello, or say, "I'm not hungry," when they wanted something to eat. I remember when 2 Heyokas rode one horse into our village. They rode backwards, of course. A crowd of villagers gathered around for the entertainment. One Heyoka fell off into a puddle. He splashed around and pretended he was drowning in a great river, which was ridiculous. The other Heyoka jumped to save him. The 2 men flopped around until they were covered in mud. Finally, they just sat there crying like babies. It was the funniest thing I have ever seen. We all laughed so hard that our stomachs hurt. The seasons passed, autumn into winter and spring into summer. As I grew older, when I was alone, I would sometimes hear the spirit voices, but I never told anyone. It seemed we had an endless supply of days to be lived beneath the open blue sky. But our world was changing. The Washichos, the white people, came to our country looking for the yellow metal they called gold. They made lines on our land with their wagon roads and their iron rails. Still, when the buffalo herds moved, we followed. The circle of life held firm against these strange forces. And these are pictures from that historic time. In 1872, when I was 9 years old, our entire village was on such a move. Horses carried people and hauled all of our supplies. One day, we boys rode our horses beneath a stand of cottonwood trees. Others were laughing and joking, but I felt dizzy and strangely sick. We stopped by a stream to drink and to water our horses. My arms and my legs ached. When I climbed down from my pony, my legs folded beneath me. I spent the night with a fever. The next day, I was too sick to ride. Instead, I was laid on a pony drag and pulled all the way to our new encampment. My parents were very worried. I awoke with a fever, but I still seemed to be sleeping and dreaming. Looking out the doorway of our teepee, I could see the sky 2 spirits came down out of the clouds. These cloud people called for me to follow. I sat up. My legs did not ache anymore, so I stepped from our teepee into the clouds. The cloud people led the way. Mountains of clouds rose all about. Thunder rumbled. Then galloping spirit horses appeared from the 4 sacred directions. To the west, horses snorted lightning. To the north, they kicked up a snowstorm. From the east, horses pranced with eyes that shone like stars at dawn. And from the south, horses appeared with wind-blown manes, growing with grass and the leaves of living trees. They wheeled about in a great circle. The plunging horses were in numbers too many to count. Before my eyes, they changed into other 4-legged beings, deer, coyotes, and rabbits, swimming beings, tadpoles and fish, and winged beings, moths, ravens, and eagles. All of the different animals of the world danced about me in the great circle of life. Suddenly they vanished into the 4 directions. I was left standing at the center of the world. A flaming rainbow arched overhead. Before me a teepee appeared. Looking within, I saw 6 old men seated in a circle. "Welcome, grandson," they said. "Enter. Do not be afraid." The faces of the 6 grandfathers looked older than the mountains, older than the stars. I stepped forward, trembling with fear, for I knew the star grandfathers before me were not ordinary old men. They were the ancient ones, the powers of the world. "Do not fear us, my boy," one spirit reassured. "We have called you here in order to teach you. Share this gift of hope with the Lakota people and all beings living on this good earth." Another grandfather handed me a wooden cup filled with water, and he said, "This is the power to give life that is granted to all." Next he handed me a bow and arrows and said, "This is the power to destroy that is given to all. Everyone must choose to walk with the water of life or the weapons of destruction." One of the grandfathers held forth a red stick and said, "This is the tree of life that grows at the center of all things." As he spoke, 4 leaves sprouted forth. "Carry this sacred stick back to your people. Teach them to care for the tree of life. If all people share the same vision, the tree will flourish." The 6 grandfathers faded into the cloud shapes. The shapes became my mother and father, waiting by my bedside. They told me I had lain with a fever for many days. A medicine man from our tribe had prayed over me during that time. He said that I had journeyed to the spirit world and had been blessed with a great vision. I knew he spoke the truth, but I was only 9 years old. How was I supposed to share such a powerful vision with my people? So I kept the vision to myself. After my sickness, people treated me differently. They would come to me when they were sick. They would ask me to pray over them, so I did. Many times they were cured. I often looked up at the clouds and thought about my vision of the flowering tree. I doubted the good words of the 6 grandfathers. I doubted myself, for our way of life was being destroyed around us, and what could my vision do? The United States government knew we could not survive without the buffalo, so they slaughtered most of them. Then they demanded that the Lakota people sign a paper called a treaty. The paper took most of our land and forced us to move onto Indian reservations. Soldiers came and fought all Indians who resisted. Many terrible battles followed. I remember the hot summer day in 1876 when Lieutenant Colonel Custer, or Yellowhair as we called him, attacked our village. I was 12 years old. We were camped along the Little Bighorn River where Chief Sitting Bull had called for a council of the Lakota and Cheyenne nations. It was the greatest gathering of Indians that I had ever seen. We numbered in the thousands. In the heat of midday, we boys were cooling off in the river. Many families rested near their teepees in the shade of cottonwoods. On a hillside I could see women and girls digging for turnips. From the far end of our encampment we heard a commotion and the cries, "Washicho! Soldiers are coming!" Bullets cut through the leaves overhead. The ground rumbled from the galloping of charging horses. Without warning, Washicho soldiers, or bluecoats, as we called them, set upon us like cruel, blowing winds. Women and children screamed, running every which way. Crazy Horse, one of our great chiefs, rode forward, rallying the warriors. He called out, "Ho, Kahe! It is a good day to fight. It is a good day to die. Strong hearts, brave hearts, to the front!" In the confusion, I grabbed my weapons and mounted a horse. Hundreds of bluecoats were attacking. They had come to kill my parents, my brothers and sisters, and my friends and my neighbors. Still, there were thousands of us, and we were fighting for our lives. We had the power as well. Everywhere there were screaming horses and dying people. The gunfire roared like a hailstorm. The furious fighting settled a dark cloud of dust that smudged out the sun. Before me in the dim light, I saw a bluecoat who had fallen from his horse. I shot him with my pistol, and then I took his scalp. I killed a second soldier with an arrow and later scalped another dead man. Panicked horses ran past me, trying to escape from the cloud of death. Their saddles were empty now. In time, the hail of bullets quieted. The dust cloud settled, covering all the slain men and fallen horses. The smell of so much blood gave me a sick feeling. I had to lead my pony away from all that awful place. As for Yellow Hair, he was foolish and died on that terrible day. Most of his soldiers died with him. Although my people won the Battle of the Little Bighorn, as it came to be called, there was little time for celebration. We gathered up our belongings and fled toward the west. We knew more bluecoats would come, and they did, in numbers no one could count, to hunt us. We were helpless against so many guns. Chief Crazy Horse led us as best he could. With no buffalo to hunt, we were hungry. In the cold of winter, we began to starve. When our horses died, we ate them. There was nowhere else to turn. My defeated people gave up their guns. We surrendered our way of life. We camped near the soldiers' fort on the land now called an Indian reservation. Even though Chief Crazy Horse had come willingly and brought his people to the Washichos, the soldiers tried to imprison him. Crazy Horse struggled with them, and they killed him. I was heartbroken and cried the whole night through. The power of life I had seen in my vision seemed to be broken. I lost all hope for a flowering tree of goodness. We no longer hunted to support ourselves. Instead, the government gave us food and blankets. Our entire way of life had been turned on its head. My people felt like a wounded animal. We were pinned in a cruel, steep trap with no hope of escape. I was 16 years of age. Sometimes I would awake before dawn when the morning star still shone in the sky. I would crawl from our teepee while everyone in our village slept. Standing alone in the stillness, I would hear the spirit voices whispering. They scared me. I did not know what they wanted of me. Whenever storm clouds appeared, I would tremble, for the thunder beings chanted to me, "Behold, your grandfathers, make haste." In the daytime, birds would often call to me, and at night, coyotes would howl, "It is time! It is time!" Finally, an old medicine man named Black Road offered me hope. I told him about the troubling voices and my great vision. He listened carefully, then told me, "My boy, you have been blessed with a holy vision. The spirit voices are telling you that it is time to share your vision. Share it with the people of this world." Black Road told me I needed to perform a horse dance ceremony for our entire tribe. Black Road and a man named Bear Sings set up a ceremonial teepee. Upon it they painted the images of my wondrous vision. Over the doorway arched the colors of a flaming rainbow. Seated inside, I was joined by 6 old men, just like the 6 grandfathers who were the powers of the world. They told me that I had become a teacher and a healer. Outside, the thunder beings trembled their approach. People gathered, leading horses that they had painted in a sacred manner. They brought a painted horse especially for me. The grandfathers sat with a cup of water and a bow with arrows. They said, "Be brave and go forth." So I passed through the doorway of the flaming rainbow and mounted my pony. A throng of people mounted on dancing horses, circling the teepee. Everyone celebrated my vision in the clouds. All the people of my village sang to the rhythm of beating drums. I told them about the cup of water and the bow and arrows. I explained that every person carries the power to give life and the power to destroy. With the strength of my vision, I called out my message of hope. Each of you is like a blossom that flowers upon the tree of life. Grow strong. Let your branches fill with budding leaves and singing birds. By performing the horse dance ceremony, I had shared the knowledge of my great vision. All fears and doubts about my vision were washed away. Still, there seemed to be no future for my people living in the Indian reservation. The buffalo were gone. We could not move. The circle of life was broken. In 1886, a Washicho showman named Buffalo Bill Cody offered us a job performing his Wild West show. The great Lakota chief Sitting Bull joined his show. So did other Indians. I thought about my vision. Maybe if I joined with the others, I might learn more about the strange and powerful world of the white people. If I went among the Washichos, maybe I would overcome my weakness that was still inside of me. With renewed strength, I could help mend the broken circle of my people. We rode an iron horse far away to the city of New York. The power of the Washichos was great, greater than I had ever imagined. They lived in tall stone buildings that glowed with light in the night. Crowds of people paid money to see us Indians in a big outdoor circus. We rode horses and pretended to hunt buffalo. We wore our native clothing, sang our songs, and played as fighting soldiers. At the end of every performance, we Indians would pretend to be killed. Buffalo Bill would ride into the big arena on his great white horse. He shot his pistol with no bullets, and we Indians fell down as if we were dead. The crowds of people cheered to see the great spectacle. It seemed strange that people who put us on reservations also admired us. The Wild West show was a great success. Buffalo Bill took the show across the big water to Europe. All of the members of the show, including the horses and buffalo, were gathered on a huge fireboat. We journeyed many days upon the big water. While at sea, a terrible storm set upon us. The ship rolled up and down on mountains of water. Many Indians vomited with sickness. At first the sailors laughed, and then terror filled their eyes too. They feared the great fireboat would be swallowed. They told us to put on vests that would float on the big water. I refused. Instead, I dressed myself in the manner of a Lakota warrior. I beat my drum and sang prayers to Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, who is the one power in this world. The storm passed. Some of the animals had died upon the ship. It broke my heart to see the bodies of elk and buffalo thrown overboard. Just the same, we had crossed the great sea. Thousands of people came to see our Wild West show in London. Buffalo Bill paid all of us, and he treated us fairly, but I always thought about my family and my vision of the sacred tree. I often wondered how I was supposed to continue sharing the teachings of the six grandfathers. While in England, I joined another Wild West troupe, the Mexican Joe Show. We performed in France, Germany, and Italy. In 1889, I returned to my family on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I had been away for nearly 3 years and was 26 years old. I was so happy to be home again and see my parents, but life on the reservation was worse than when I left. There was never enough food. In the winter, without enough warm clothing or shelter, my people suffered and many died. In the cruel winter of 1890, the Lakota people had become desperate. We longed for the old days when we hunted buffalo and lived freely on Mother Earth. Many gathered to pray in secrecy on the prairie. In a circle, we danced the ghost dance. We prayed for the buffalo to return. I believed the vision of my youth would come true. I hoped a miracle would cause the tree of life to flower for my people. But the bluecoats hunted us, and many of my Lakota people retreated to a place called Wounded Knee. Washicho soldiers gathered on the hilltops surrounding the village of teepees at Wounded Knee. In their hearts they carried the power to destroy. The battle and skirmishes that followed would be the last fight of my people. More than 300 Lakota men, women, and children were gunned down in the snow at Wounded Knee. I was shot in the stomach, but lived to tell my story. At the time, I thought the circle of life of my people had been broken. It seemed the tree of life had been crushed to death in the snow. My people and I surrendered to the Washichos. We moved onto the Pine Ridge Reservation. We were not allowed to roam the plains any longer. The road I have walked in this life has been both wonderful and hard. I am an old man now, but I remember the endless supply of days lived by a boy riding his pony beneath the blue sky. In my memory, I can see the terrible suffering of my people. I ask, why have human beings forgotten that the earth is their mother? But I am not bitter. I still walk with the great vision in my heart. Like the 6 grandfathers, I now give you the same gifts they gave me. To you I pass the bow and arrows with the power to destroy. Also I pass you the cup of water with the power to give life. I ask, where is the flowering tree I saw as a boy? If you look with your heart, you will see the thirsty little tree before you. In your hand is the power to help it grow. The end.
Wow.
Powerful, isn't it?
That. Yes. It's a very sad story. And
It
yet
is. There is hope.
there is.
There is hope. We have the power to give life or destroy.
Very true.
Let's give life.
Let's do that. Now, recently there were book awards announced, and this happens to be one of the books that won some awards. More than one.
The Caldecott, right?
Yes, an honor, right? A Caldecott honor. And so I would like to read this. We've been enjoying it in story time recently. It's been a book of the month. It is called They All Saw a Cat, and it's written and illustrated by Brendan Wenzel. They all saw a cat. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. And the child saw a cat. And the dog saw a cat. And the fox saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. And the fish saw a cat. And the mouse saw a cat. And the bee saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. The cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. And the bird saw a cat. And the flea saw a cat. And the snake saw a cat. And the skunk saw a cat. And the worm saw a cat. And the bat saw a cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. Yes, they all saw the cat. A child and a dog and a fox and a fish and a mouse and a bee and a bird and a flea and a snake and a skunk and a worm and a bat. The cat knew them all, and they all knew the cat. And the cat walked through the world with its whiskers, ears, and paws. Then it came to water. And imagine what it saw. The end.
Oh, I love that book.
I do too.
And that is a great place to end. Come to the library, come and check out some books, and talk with us about books that you've found and read and liked, and we'll listen.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you. Bye-bye.